Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I love hearing Zach's voice every morning, and we'll get into to how that plays into the segment. But good weekend.
Great weekend.
Yeah, great weekend.
How about you?
Snow on the ground in Denver.
Yeah, I woke up to a beautiful blanket of snow. It's still dumping out a little bit right now. It's like more like frozen rain. You know, it's not coming in flakes. It's coming in more of a, a real solid bullet down to the ground. But yeah, first snow. Here we go.
That's what's up.
What about you? You actually did something this weekend. For the listeners that know, I always ask Michael, what do you got going on this week? What do you got going on this weekend? Anything fun? On the end of the show. And he goes, oh, same old, same old. That's all he says. And then we leave. Well, proof. Michael does stuff on the weekends. Let's go. He caught a bass.
I caught a couple bass.
Yeah, tell us about your fishing trip. Not even a trip, but your fishing expedition.
My 5-year-old loves fishing. So whenever we have an afternoon, we'll go out to a little local pond that's stocked with some nice bass, and started catching some big ones yesterday. Probably the biggest bass I've ever seen in my life. Unfortunately, Oliver caught nothing, which made him very sad. But he got to see.
He has time. He's still young.
But yeah, good time. Beautiful day. You have snow. It was like 75 degrees here. It was perfect.
And then Brandy is out in Miami just living her best life. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was a friend's 30th birthday, and we went out like proper clubbing and had a boat day. So
Wow.
those days really there's some recovery on the back end. Like,
yeah. Especially as we're getting older every year, just need more time to recover.
Like after 6 hours of dancing, I was like, oh, these 32-year-old knees, they can't really handle it like they used to.
My goodness.
Yeah, we're getting old, my friends. We're getting old. Well, Michael's already old, so
I wouldn't even dream of doing that. Those days that's about a decade bygone in my life.
That's so funny. Well, quick housekeeping items before we get into the show. We have a jam-packed agenda of topics today, but I want to give a quick shout out to Jeremy Weiss. Good morning, our friend. Good to see you. Happy Monday, everybody. Hello, Adam. Great to see you as well. Super excited to be on. I love Mondays, but we have some housekeeping items, like I said. So shout out to Megan Moylan and Clark for their wedding this week. I will be in Puerto Rico in attendance of the wedding, so shout out to them. Really excited. If you guys don't know, Megan Moylan hosts a podcast within Hospitality FM. Totally worth a listen. And then another shameless plug to our Good Morning Retreat attendees that have confirmed their sign up. We are cranking away on this agenda. Michael, are you pumped to be in Tennessee for our next retreat?
I am. Bolt Farm Treehouse is one of the original and best known brands in the outdoor hospitality world. And what they've done up there, I'm excited to see firsthand, but also have a good old retreat like we've done so many times before.
Yes. And Brandy, you're actually going to be there. We're so pumped.
I know. The FOMO last time was so real, so I couldn't let that happen again.
Yes, we can't let the FOMO be real this year. So we have a couple more spots left. We wanted to put it out to our listeners. If you go to goodmorningretreats.com, you can share your interest with us. If you would like to RSVP, we do have a couple spots left. And then, of course, if you are in Denver, the Good Neighbor Summit is here November 16th. It is an important day-long event of content around advocacy and this year's theme, which is future-proofing your STR business, which is really great. Got a lot of good speakers. I get to MC, so I wanted to give them a nice little special plug. Shout out to Dana Lubner and the Rent Responsibly team and Mile High hosts. You guys are all amazing, and I'm excited to hang out in Denver. All right, this one is a fun first topic to jump into, which is loyalty. So we talk about loyalty a little bit. I've also talked about loyalty on other podcasts and interviews and webinars or whatever. It's a really interesting topic, especially for vacation rentals. But our good friend Zach Busekrus actually got to announce that he was acquired. Staywatch, his company, and his podcast Behind the Stays was acquired by Journey. So, Michael, do you want to share some information around what's going on with Journey and loyalty? You're muted. We're professionals, people. We're professionals.
What an amateur.
We passed our 4-year anniversary, and this guy can't even unmute his freaking mic.
Well, anyway, so Journey, that's the problem with being live, right? Journey is a platform for independent hotels, short-term rentals, experiential stays, and it's built around loyalty, where guests can both earn and redeem on wonderful stays. And I think the target demographic and market is right. Our generation very rarely goes and stays in the big box Marriott in downtown, as much as you know what you're going to get in those traditional, 4 walls. I think millennials do like a bit more experiential, a bit more local flair, and that's really what short-term rentals has been so popular, because we like the more authentic types of stays. And they've teamed up with the Points guy, who has obviously the biggest and best insights in credit cards in the world. So I do expect a really cool credit card play to come out of this. It's a bit of a chicken and egg scenario. You got to build out the supply, and then you can build up the demand. You could go either way, but in this case, if you have a really cool property and want an introduction, let us know, and we'd be happy to get you in touch with the right folks.
We're actually going to have John Sutton, who is the CEO and co-founder of Journey, on the show here in a couple weeks. We actually have November 18th. So for those that weren't able to read the Bloomberg article announcing the debut of Journey, I highly recommend you tune into that episode. But I want to get into, and also congrats Zach Busekrus and Dan and the whole team at Staywatch for getting acquired and joining this company. It's going to be really exciting. Michael, one more comment?
Yeah. So anytime news like this goes out, every company, the Bloomberg title was "The Points Guy Takes on Airbnb with Loyalty Program." I have yet to see when Romy raised money.
Took on Airbnb.
Romy's taking on Airbnb, and when Vacasa and Sonder went public, it's they take on Airbnb. It's a very clickbait headline. They aren't just going after short-term rental loyalty, and quite frankly, if they were, I'd be quite scared of their business model. But playing into independent hotels globally, the TAM is far, far better than just a short-term rental loyalty program play. So don't believe the clickbait if you're one of those who just reads the headlines and titles. But we've seen this one time and time again, and it only confuses investors and people who are interested in the business. Like, oh, why the Points guy is going to launch an Airbnb competitor? Like, no, they're not.
No.
And they're like, or people will be like, that seems crazy. And they just go like all off into it. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. But what I really love about this, when they get into kind of like the details of the program, is they're touching on a sentiment among people who are big, like credit card buffs or points people, where your points have just been continuously devalued, especially in the last like year or two. Everybody has status, so status means nothing. And so, but what I like about them is you can buy smaller things with your points. You don't have to like amass this enormous trove of points. You can have smaller points and spend it on like services at the spa, or just one night of your stay, or things like that. So it's really giving people an outlet for their points, and they don't, it doesn't feel like you have to just like be glued to this card for 4 years before you get to spend 2 nights at a hotel for free.
100%. One of the cool things I like about that too, Brandy, to feed off before I want to ask you guys a question, is like, even when I use my Capital One card to buy something on Amazon, I love that I could like toggle on the button that lets me use points to purchase it rather than actually like just paying with the credit card. So I think that's really cool because it's kind of like that, right? Like instead of buying your stay, you could buy the spa. You could like buy something a little minimal, kind of like how I bought something on Amazon yesterday. It's $37. Togged on that credit card point thing. Boom, redeemed, paid like 19 cents, and it was really easy and it was really great. I love that. The question for you two, the next topic or article that kind of ties into loyalty is going to go into Expedia and their One Key program. But I want to ask you guys a question in the sense of, do you think that a company solely focusing on loyalty in terms of points and all this extra activity could be the winner in this loyalty race? Or do you think the companies like Expedia that are a little bit more robust, they actually have the inventory way more than what Journey has now? Who do you think is going to actually truly win in the loyalty product game? And I also know, like, I'm asking this question in the sense of John's going to be on the show. He's probably going to hear this. I understand. It's a question I also want to ask him. So I'm not throwing anything out there that I wouldn't feel comfortable with John listening to. BT dubs. So, yeah.
I'll go first. I'll throw my hat in that ring. I think that they're going to be, this is a very political answer, like different types of winners. Like I don't think this is a zero-sum game. And I think that where Journey might have a leg up on some of the other programs is that it has a very kind of like niche target, right? They want these affluent travelers that are, maybe like elder Gen Z through millennial who value travel points and travel credit cards and these kind of things. So I think with that, they actually could be poised to win that segment if this really takes off and becomes like the new thing among that niche. Now, whether you look at like the much larger loyalty program overall, obviously Expedia has the like infrastructure and brand strength and all of that to have a larger loyalty program. But I think that Journey has like some of the key components to really win this like niche segment and take some customers away from those other loyalty programs.
For sure.
Yeah, and there's a big component for Journey on the building out a book direct type of play for their clients and their properties, which factors into how valuable it'll be. And if you look at how many bookings happen on Expedia versus directly on, name a branded site, finger to the wind, 50-50. So both can exist. It's not nearly as consolidated as airlines. If they were an airline loyalty play, I'd say good luck. Never, ever going to happen. But hospitality, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of independent boutique hotels worldwide. There's literally millions of short-term rentals. So there's enough to go around, and it breaks down into segmentation of the market. Can they get the entire market? No. Can Expedia get the entire market? No. But Expedia is going to get the type of traveler that's booking probably more of their trip than just a hotel. They're booking flights, tours, activities, cars, whatever it may be. But I think the segment that's just for accommodations, if you build the brand and the properties have that through line, I like it. I mean, I think it can exist. It is going to come down to scale. And I've talked to this team before, and I've been very transparent about you need as big of a TAM as humanly possible. Do not segment yourself so small and so niche. But I think they've got the right vision, and I think the TAM is there if it's opened up enough.
I 100% agree with you in that, and also just the fact that the points for smaller purchases like spa day, brandy, like you were saying, and other stuff is really good, because I don't think you're going to have a lot of. Well, actually, I don't know how Expedia would be able to build something like that with every property, especially with branded properties being so unique and different. But leading into that is the question I also want to ask you guys in the sense of, how many of the travelers or maybe people using something like this do you think would actually consider this loyalty? And this also goes to Expedia One Key, because yes, like as a property operator, I just don't see a program like One Key or even potentially Journey, depending on how they approach it, being actual loyalty to me. It's a loyalty to that product, right? but it's not loyalty to me. So if you're using the One Key card or the Journey card, how many of the brands are, or how much of this is actually loyalty to you? And I want to know, do you guys think this will be an issue, especially when it comes to independents, boutiques, vacation rentals, in the sense that, yeah, it's not truly maybe a loyalty to that brand specific, but it's loyalty to the product itself.
Well, I can kind of see this if we compare to the one that we have currently, which is Marriott Homes and Villas. So with that program, you have people that are very feel very passionate about their loyalty to that program and like their status within that. But to your point,
Mhm.
like that's not loyalty to me. And your status doesn't necessarily mean like you come through as a regular booking. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
there we have guests that are repeat guests with us. You're a repeat guest with Marriott. So I could see how that it would be kind of similar here, where you have someone who becomes like a Journey loyalist, or if there's different tiers, I don't know if they'll move into that kind of system. But then to your point, like, yeah, they're I'm not gaining that customer, although they are kind of pushing a more direct booking, system. So then you
Yeah.
might you get that customer data and you can convert them into a lot like a loyal customer. But I definitely can see this just being another distribution platform for hotels and short-term rentals. And it's not a short-term rental loyalty program. This is something totally separate from
They're
that.
not taking on Airbnb. What?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No.
I do like that they're putting the two together though. I think hotels and short-term rentals has been separated too long, that now that the industry is kind of shifted and shaped a little bit differently through COVID and the last 4 years. It's good. It's a good combination of the two inventory types. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry to
Yeah,
cut you
a,
off.
a single hotel that's not reliant heavily on urban business travel. They don't think much about loyalty. All they care about is heads and beds. They want
Mhm.
to increase their occupancy, increase their ADR. If you can drive them business, whether it's through a redemption of points through this system or direct bookings through that system, that's all they care about. So if you can deliver on improving the property metrics, you're going to win and you're going to gain adoption. And if not, then, as long as it's not a big lift, they'll probably still roll with you and take a gamble. But at the end of the day, the products that deliver the reservations are the products that are going to win. And that's why we see the OTAs have so much control in the industry, is because they are consistently delivering high volumes of reservations.
Yep. Lots of heads and beds.
Lots of heads and beds.
All right. Well, next article goes into Expedia and Microsoft partnering up, joining their or connecting their two loyalty reward programs. So the One Key program and Microsoft Rewards. Who knew that Microsoft had their own loyalty program? Not me until I found this out. But very interesting article going into the tie of these two partnerships. And I think this is something we're going to see it play out the next 12 months, where I think Expedia specifically in this topic in this article, because with One Key, I think they're going to be pushing that pretty significantly. So in my thinking, we did reach out to the team at Expedia for a comment around this type of topic. And unfortunately, no response. We sent it a little late last week. But I think it's interesting because I think they're going to grab like the bottom of the barrel loyalty reward programs to partner with. No offense to Microsoft. I just don't know anyone that uses Microsoft or has a rewards program or plan with them. So I think they're just going to grab the bottom ones. They're going to slowly build out to the more tiered, robust programs out there that may or may not work. But that's kind of my thinking, is that they're just slowly grabbing all these bottom of the barrels and then working their way up to the better loyalty reward programs.
You're talking about a partnership between two Fortune 500 companies. I wouldn't necessarily label that bottom of the barrel. While
I don't know anyone that uses Microsoft, so
I've never
it's
used
just, yeah.
Microsoft loyalty or rewards. The Expedia isn't going to tire kick without a big, robust plan. And a lot of the stuff takes years to implement. So the fact that two Fortune 500 companies are traveling on a partnership and loyalty play is big news. Now, will it ever amount to anything? I mean, I
Probably not.
the way I see it, well, TBD. But
Yeah.
the way I see it is that the Expedia is seeing the future being AI, and Microsoft is a large AI player. So therefore, if they can get in and lock this deal in, Microsoft grows their AI segment, then they can actually legitimately grow with it. So don't be so quick to jump in the short term thinking, Will. There's a
Hey,
these
just
big
say
companies
this.
play the long game.
It's
They're
true.
not
You know,
startups.
that's
They
a
play
you
the
you make a great point with the AI play. I wasn't thinking about that, since that they were the bigger investor in ChatGPT. So hats off to you. Good. Yeah. I'll take that L when I know I'm wrong or I make a comment too soon.
Well, I mean, my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, like I can't, who uses Bing, right? But to your point, this isn't about, I thought two things. First, that this is kind of Bing's answer to Google's big travel section. And even though there's been a lot of back and forth on like, there's like Google vacation rentals didn't really have the kind of impact that we are looking at, that I think that this is a good play forward for them. And so it's, talking in the previous article about heads and beds, like some people are using Bing, some people are using this Microsoft program. And to Michael's point, this is probably a longer play than just getting a couple people in to the rewards program. It probably has a longer kind of business plan that goes with some of the technology that Microsoft is bringing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, you made a go ahead.
I've done, when I was at Noise, where I did partnerships with all of the major OTAs, and they look at pilots in like a 1-year stance, and then they look at like a 3 to 5 year stance, and then there's like the pie in the sky stance 10 years out. So never look in the short and immediate there with big companies. And if you layer in a second big company in Microsoft, they probably have plans to really start building and pushing a travel product, which we in our pre-discussion today didn't even look at it from a Microsoft perspective. But the fact that they're making moves with a major OTA, that's an interesting signal.
I also, one last thing, we have talked a lot about the One Key program, and there's been a lot of announcements or kind of things that they're doing with the program, but it might be a prediction for next year to see if it really takes off and like gets a foothold in the consumer base. Because right now, obviously the company is pushing it a lot. It's a program that they want to promote, obviously, but is this something that consumers actually want or are actually going to use, or is it something they say they want and the reality isn't going to come through? So I think that'll be an interesting prediction for kind of this time next year to see how all of this came together.
For sure. And right before this, I did pull up some information around like the One Key cards, because I know there was kind of an announcement around that also got like less hype after they were like, oh, we're gonna like stop pushing this a little bit. But the One Key cards is actually really interesting. So I think Journey actually, yeah, we're going backwards. We're going into a different older topic. So I'm gonna stop and hold my thoughts for future discussions with John in the future. But the next article is ChatGPT is to become a search engine. Interesting stuff. Skift wrote an article about how the official update with ChatGPT is now allowing real-time search. So no longer is it just going to be pulling data based on a certain time frame data set that was like being used as training and other things like that, but now it's actual real time. So it's pretty interesting. I know where I stand on this based on our conversations with Nitin and Ed at Homes and Villas. But before I go into my thoughts, Michael, what do you think in the sense of ChatGPT now becoming real-time search, implications to travel, implications to our industry? What do you think?
Well, did Microsoft just work out a deal with Expedia? I think they did. So that, first of all, that could be very interesting. But if you look at how people are searching and the potential of people searching in the future, if you mastered SEO 10, 15 years ago, then you probably killed it for a long period of time until, the laggards caught up to you. The same is probably the case now. If you know how to rank in the SEO or in the algorithm of AI and pull that forward to be what is shown. The problem with AI is a lot of times what's shown is just such a small snippet. It's so good at finding exactly the answer that you want that you don't have as many options to go beyond that like you might on a regular traditional Google search. But if you can figure out how to be in that very short, minute response from the AI, then I think your direct search is going to, or your direct bookings can absolutely skyrocket. So if you know how to do this, please tell us. We would love to know. I am certainly not the kind of guy who's going to be able to peel back the AI algorithms and understand them. But if you know a hack or you know some backdoors, we'd love to have you on and chat.
Yeah, I think, and before the show, I was a bit of a curmudgeon about this article. And I think for me, it's like two things. First, like, I don't have the technological deep know-how and, of how all of these language models work. And I think that we get a lot of like the highlight reel and the news article headline clips of a lot of this technology. And then everybody, like the general, we all make comments about it. So I think I'm just getting a bit tired of that. But there is such potential, and it really does tie back into the article before. Like Michael said, there's, Microsoft, ChatGPT now all like having more powerful search. So I think there's definitely things that are going to be interesting that come out of that. I'm personally just excited to see what those things are, how this actually starts to roll out, before I have a more like concrete opinion of it, I think.
For sure. But since you just brought up the Expedia Loyalty One Key Microsoft deal, I do want to address Paul's comment, which I love the statement in the sense of Google has wasted their dominance in the travel space because they're so fearful of losing some of the business from their largest advertisers. A Bing and Expedia partnership is the start, but a long ways to go. Really good point in the sense of I think Google definitely could have dominated in a lot of the OTA travel stuff, but they haven't. We slowly saw them. I wouldn't know if they couldn't. I think Paul's comment is pretty on the money in the sense of like they were so fearful of losing some of their big business to venture into this that they didn't execute properly. They were too fearful. They didn't pull the right triggers. They rolled it out too slowly. They didn't make changes and adjustments throughout the gate. Like it just was kind of like, all right.
It was like a half done rollout, because I remember at a couple different festival or conferences, the one that comes to mind is Festival. Google had a booth there. And so you go up to talk to them and be like, hey, like we're trying to put things on this platform, and they didn't really have any answers. So I'm like, why did you come in the first place? But I think that to Paul's point, like Google kind of like wasted its lead, but then the Bing Expedia, like that's just the beginning. Like they still have a long way to catch up. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I kind of highly doubt that Google does an about face, but it's still a long ways for Bing to make up that ground.
Google, I wouldn't even call it borderline monopoly. Google is an absolute monopoly already. If Google went into travel and literally killed Booking and Expedia, then they would be probably broken up, not just from the travel space, but it opened up them being broken up more broadly.
Like the whole alphabet company.
So why mess with it? So yes, I agree completely with Paul. Like they could have absolutely dominated the space, but they would have dominated it so much so that it would have been a very, very blatant and clear case of monopoly. And maybe for the first time ever, the government would have stopped a monopoly from happening. So that's my guess as to why. I do think the Bing Expedia, it's an interesting place to start. It does have a long way to go. But I think it's a broader, more AI driven play versus what it exists today.
To address your comment about the monopoly piece, the government is looking at breaking up Google. We've talked about it a little bit on the show in the past, but breaking up from search, so YouTube and Google Chrome, and then Android and a bunch of its other products. But to piggyback off of some of the comments on the All In podcast, I don't think that would be the best idea, in the sense of the reason why Google has been able to invest in so many cool new startups and innovations like Waymo, for example, is because of their profit that they've driven from all these products. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn thoughts here, but I do want to pull up the kind of last closing comment and thought around the ChatGPT and like real-time search piece, because I think it's going to allow more personalized search, and it's not just going to take keywords. It's actually going to take the whole context. And I think it's really cool because, Brandy, you and I got to hear from Nitin and Ed talking about how they developed this, and what it really started out was a chatbot. It was originally a chatbot, then they built out this AI generative search where it actually can pull so much personalized context out of your search into the actual display of inventory or display of trips or whatever kind of inquiry you're doing, whether it's plan me a trip or do this. But I think it's really cool because it's going to basically make the customization and actual display of the information way more personal and connected, rather than just like a bunch of stuff that maybe had some relevance to what you were searching, but not as much. And I think it's going to be a good thing for overall search. And like Michael said, if you were great at SEO when SEO first came out, you better be really good at this, and see how this can impact your direct bookings and your overall brand if you have one. It's going to be really, really interesting. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up the show? We're almost right on time.
No, I'm just with all of these things, I'm just excited, like I said, for a year from now to see how they're playing out. With one key in particular, there's just so much hype around it. And I'd love to see how that really plays out.
Yeah, I think we've talked about loyalty on the show for probably a couple of years, and until One Key came out a few months ago, Journey came out Friday, there hadn't been a whole lot necessarily to talk about. In fact, the only thing that there's been to talk about is Chesky saying they're not doing one anytime soon. And going back to the top of the discussion, I do think it's going to be more about how people can accrue points, and it pretty much has to be a credit card. No one's accruing enough independent boutique hotel stays en masse to support, VC style company. I don't know their funding situation exactly, but I'm assuming it would be pretty heavily VC backed. But I do think that, with scale and the points guy being involved, it has to have a massive credit card play. And if you can start gaining those points, I've got points with Amex, Capital One, blah, blah, blah. I pretty much just bank those for whenever I travel personally. And that's like my travel fund is my credit card points. I don't use them on Amazon purchases, but I'm excited to see where the industry's going and with loyalty.
100%. It's going to be a great topic to keep covering on Good Morning Hospitality. So as you guys know, like and subscribe. Make sure you tune in every week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you are watching on LinkedIn, highly recommend you go like and subscribe on YouTube. Our YouTube has been growing pretty significantly, so shout out to all you YouTube subscribers. But before that, any fun plans this week? I already shared that I'm going to Puerto Rico on Wednesday. What are you guys up to? Anything fun, or are you guys just grinding away? Same old for Michael.
It's my anniversary on Tuesday, and my parents are coming into town for the weekend. So big week.
Boyfriend anniversary or Romy anniversary?
Boyfriend anniversary.
Okay, thank God. I was like, let's go.
Boyfriend anniversary and parents coming into town. Has he asked your ring size lately?
Oh, hey.
Perhaps.
Fingers are manicured. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's feeling so light. It's feeling so light.
Wow. Brandy is prepared. I like it. All right. Next week, everybody, stay tuned. We'll give you the breaking news if Brandy gets proposed and engaged to this weekend. Heyo. Be super good. Michael, anything fun? Brandy's just like having a mental breakdown.
one of my buddies is opening a restaurant up in Birmingham, so we're gonna pop up there Tuesday night. They have ambitions to be top 50 in the country. It's gonna be dope. The chef is a James Beard guy, so it'll be good. Brandy, right up your alley.
Yeah, I was like, send some pics. I want the details.
Will do.
Love it. Love it. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the live. Shout out to Paul. Shout out to Terry White. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Jeremy. And shout out to everybody else who did not comment in, but we still love you. Like always, make sure you like and subscribe, join the newsletter, do all the things. Good Morning Hospitality. And like always, we'll see you guys again next